Happy Pride 2024. This year, let's delve into the intriguing dynamics of two villains who formed quite the deadly duo, Mystique and Destiny. Their relationship, one of the strongest in comic book history, holds a unique twist. One was dead for a significant portion of real world time. But first, for those who might not know who these two are, here's a refresher. Mystique is arguably the most recognizable of the two, having been played by Rebecca Romijn and Jennifer Lawrence in the live action X-Men movies. Her powers are pretty much the same as those, though her morality is much more questionable. Her partner Destiny has received much less exposure, but her powers are fairly easy to explain. As her codename indicates, Destiny is a seer, i.e., she can see the future and try to shape it to her advantage. So, a shapeshifter and a seer, one who alters their form and one who alters fate. Both Mystique, aka Raven Darkholme, and Destiny, aka Irene Adler, yes, that is her real name. It used to be a cute reference to the Sherlock Holmes character, until it wasn't just a reference anymore because comic book writers can't keep things simple. Spawned from the mind of the legendary X-Men writer Chris Claremont, though in the case of the former, it was the artist Dave Cockrum who brought her to life on the page, while for the latter, it was John Byrne. The two would first share panel time in the story Days of Future Past as members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants who planned to assassinate Senator Kelly and essentially doom mutant kind. They would make a lot of appearances as Brotherhood members and later as members of the heroic government-sponsored version of the team, Freedom Force. From the beginning, it was clear that there was a lot of subtext to indicate that Mystique and Destiny were more than just good friends. Not only did the couple raise Rogue as their own daughter, but writer Chris Claremont, master of foreshadowing that he is, clearly hinted at Mystique being the parent of X-Man Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler. Though not the parent you'd think. So the rumor at the time, which was later confirmed by Chris Claremont himself, was that he wanted Mystique to be Kurt's father, shapeshifting into a man and impregnating Destiny, who would be Kurt's mother. But sadly, Marvel wasn't exactly friendly towards the idea at the time. I mean, look at poor North Star who contracted AIDS. Then when someone at Marvel realized that they were about to make their only out and proud superhero HIV positive, they retconned him to be half fairy, which thankfully did not stick. But sadly, his chance never came, as later on, Chuck Austin in his X-Men run, that's like the second time this year I've talked about Chuck Austin's X-Men run, yeesh, would have Mystique have an affair with the demon-like mutant Azazel and have her be Kurt's mother instead. However, eventually, finally, thankfully, writer Cy Spurrier would reveal that this was a half-truth and would retcon Mystique into being the father of Nightcrawler and Destiny as the mother. With her powers, Destiny foresaw that Azazel would be trouble later down the line and wanted him to be preoccupied with his hairs. As a result, Mystique would shapeshift into Azazel and use his genetic material to impregnate Destiny, which leads to Nightcrawler's birth. It was a long and winded path, and the way we got there took a lot of unnecessary detours, but Mystique, Destiny, and Nightcrawler are finally related in the way their creator intended. But enough about their children. What about Mystique and Destiny themselves? Well, I hinted at this already, but Destiny died in an encounter with a Shadow King-possessed legion, long story, and would stay dead for a long time outside of a few minor resurrections during Necrosha and Chaos War. What's frustrating is that when she died, she had a vision that Mystique's soulmate or some crap like that was actually Forge. I hate this. Not only the whole you're meant to be with each other because Destiny said so, but also this weird idea of making Forge the guy Mystique was meant to be with is just... no. The sad part is this was also written by Chris Claremont, so go figure. However, after a long time and an attempt by Destiny to resurrect Logan when he was dead by tricking Mystique into thinking she was resurrecting Irene, Destiny would be resurrected during the Krakoan Age, specifically during the event Inferno. After a bit of retconning, it was revealed that Destiny had used her powers in the past to coerce Moira MacTaggert, who was now a mutant, into becoming a force for good for mutant kind by brutally murdering her. So when Moira masterminded the Krakoa initiative, which included resurrection protocols for mutants, she established a rule that precogs could not be brought back. Precogs, like Destiny. But the problem with precogs is they can see the future, and Destiny had used her powers to foresee this, and with the help of Mystique, and because the no precog rule was an unofficial thing, Irene was back. And hey, she even got de-aged as well. While the two would participate in many interesting stories after this, I'm gonna try to stick to their relationship, as I might end up going on a tangent and forgetting what I was talking about, which is fairly common for me. Anyway, one of the more interesting things I want to note about their relationship is that Destiny was kind of treated like Mystique's morality pet after her death. It was as if she was the only thing keeping Raven from going completely evil, as if she did not care for anything else. As most writers who would write Mystique as someone who would backstab whoever she was working with on a whim, this characterization suited the narrative. However, I think most people forgot that Destiny was a willing participant in the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants under Chris Claremont's pen. She was the one who was going to assassinate Senator Kelly with a crossbow in the comics. The difference was that both Irene and Raven were also shown to have their soft moments. But when Irene died and Mystique committed atrocity after atrocity, the latter, caring for her son and daughter, didn't seem to mean as much. It felt like Mystique had undergone character development into a femme fatale with no morals. However, under Jonathan Hickman's pen, this was corrected, and potentially overcorrected if you ask some people, but that's up for debate. The first time we see Destiny in Hawks and Pox, it was the scene I described where she has Pyro murder Moira. And after she is resurrected, one of the first things she attempts to do is murder Moira. And then she does a host of terrible things to people who are not Moira. She treats Gambit like crap because he isn't good enough for Rogue in her eyes. She complains about letting the Avengers on Krakoa to help them, and then complains that they abandoned them when they go deal with some other threat. And she even lets the bad future of the Sins of Sinister event happen just because it is the only one where Mystique and her live forever. The irony in the last one is that Raven actually leaves her in that future to go fight the good fight, and then dies in the process anyway. Personally speaking, I love that Destiny isn't this relatively saintly person whose love is the only thing redeeming Mystique. They both can be terrible people, while also having the strongest relationship in Marvel history. Love doesn't need a justification. Love doesn't need a purpose. You don't need a reason to love someone, whoever they may be. Well, that's as good a place as any to end the video. But there is one moment in their relationship I want to talk about because I think it sums up how well Destiny and Mystique knew each other and cared for one another. After Irene was killed, Mystique planned on fulfilling her last wish by scattering her ashes at sea. Irene gave Raven very specific instructions about where and when to do so. She had also left a letter to be opened before scattering the ashes, which contained a ring, a photo, and the lyrics to a Beatles song. Raven begins to reminisce about when the photo was taken and a memory of Irene saying that she would make her laugh. It's the last thing she did comes to her mind. As tears begin to well up in her eyes, Raven scatters the ashes overboard, and a gust of wind promptly blows them back in her face. Mystique starts to curse her luck until she realizes what just happened. She laughs out loud at Irene's joke from beyond the grave and goes on her way, humming their song to herself.